Alright, thank you very much. Of course, amazing music from Jessica Band over there. They're going to be staying with us for a while. I want to get into the discussion today, and we'll be talking more about youth politics and also just the views of them, depending on what was going on in the headlines. We are with the Lone Felix is vying for the Busia Senate. We're also expecting some Wairimu who's vying for MP Maragwa and Chris Bonesi vying for MCA Nairobi South Ward. That is if they make it on time. Let's just say kuna jam, pengine wamekoma kwa jam. So if you want to have any comments and questions as well, it is hashtag Power Breakfast and SMS is 22422. So Lom, thank you for joining us. Of course, you're vying as an independent. You submitted your documents.
Yes, successfully.
And successfully as well.
Yes.
Let's start with what Rachel Shebesh said. She's vying, of course, for the women representative. She went to the hospital with an ambulance. But she said, you being an independent, she said that independence wataribu hesabu for the race. What is your comment on that?
Thank you, Willis, for having me here. I think let me start by wishing Shebesh quick recovery.
Yes.
But then, this is really not about hesabu. This is about giving people an opportunity, giving people alternatives to choose from. So whether a candidate is vying on a political party, which is their constitutional right, whether a candidate is vying as an independent candidate, which is their constitutional right, I think the bottom line is citizens have an opportunity to evaluate us on the basis of policies and then choose from that. So sio mambo ya hesabu, nani anaribia nani hesabu. Let people go to the field. If someone qualifies, citizens will evaluate you and eventually say you're worth it or you're not worth it.
Yes. So don't you think though that in terms of we are coming up with a system, at least in this past parliament, where there was the tyranny of numbers.
Yes.
So do you foresee a scenario where we'll have more independents voted in, and hence that tyranny will sort of die off? But then, as you answer that, the offshoot of that would be there'll be a lot of lobbying to lobby when you want to pass something.
I mean, I want to look at it from two perspectives. The first one is the future of Kenya, and indeed the future of democracy, does lie in strong political parties. That is not in doubt. A political party is the primary institution through which politics is exercised. Nonetheless, we have issues with political parties in Kenya in terms of they're not ideologically founded, or they do not have an ideological basis. Most of the time they are vehicles to access power. And so as the country matures and our democracy matures and political parties become credible institutions, then I think we will move towards that direction. In regard to the tyranny of numbers, it has not helped this country in any case. I think what we have seen in the last, in this parliament is an extreme sense of partisanship, where we could not even discuss very basic things to arrive at solutions. And we, various political players get to resort to the road to demonstrate before they are heard and all that. So our democracy has not been very democratic. In that in that regard, I think it is a good thing that we have many individuals take a position depending on their conscience, depending on how good that position is going to support their people, as opposed to a political stand, because many political stands that have been taken in the last few years have not been very good.
Except salaries.
Except salaries, of course, when they all come together. Yes. And then in terms of lobbying, and this has now to be my prayer to the citizens of this country: do not elect crooks to parliament, whether as independents or as members of political parties, because they will make the process of legislation extremely expensive. We have a lot of allegations about members of parliament being bought off. Now you can imagine if the number of those who have to be bought off goes really high. So vet people on the basis of their integrity, on the basis of the values they espouse, on the basis of what they stand for, and take them to Parliament. Yes.
All right, so of course we'll still on the political scene. Now it's basically everybody's been given the clearance. At least the Senate, the governors of course are going, the women representatives are getting theirs today and tomorrow, yesterday and today. So basically everybody has a green light. At least you know there is the issue of all the the presidential candidates are now out there asking for the votes. And so now comes a scenario where there is one, it's said to be a two-horse race, of course, with respect to the other candidates, hoping something will happen. But so far, it is said to be, at least according to the polls, a two-horse race. But then the question is, what is the advantage or disadvantage for, in your view, of either of, since now you're independent, of either of the parties, whoever gets to power? There's the view that if President Uhuru gets to power this time round, it will be better because he has nothing to lose, so he'll be more firm on corruption and all these things, fire his so-called friends. There's a view that there's, to bring fresh blood, you need NASA and all that. So what are your views as terms of the presidency and the way to take the country forward?
In terms of going forward, I think we have to admit to a large extent that a lot is not working in this country. For me as a young person, I see the rates of unemployment in Kenya being highest within the region, and unemployment to me is not a problem that I'm dealing with from far. It's a friend who we graduated together who doesn't have a job, and so we sit with them on the couch when talking about this. A lot has to be done. Now, there are glimpses of good things from both coalitions, I have to admit. It will be very hard for you to say over the last 4.5 years or something, nothing good has been done. But there's also a lot of things that have gone wrong. In my view, I do not believe that if you re-elect someone to the presidency, for example, something will materially change. I think running a bureaucracy, when you want to inject newer blood from it to the bureaucracy, you do it the first day you get into office. I think we have seen, and I think history has given us leaders who, when they get into a system and they say this system is not working, they set pace from the onset. Right now, cartels have concretized themselves. They have found a way around the levers of power and all that. I don't think anything will materially change, really, going forward. So when you're looking at Uhuru Kenyatta, I believe if you're his supporter, you have just to look at his track record. If it satisfies you, well and good, you give him your support. On the other hand, if you look at NASA, it has its own good things and its own challenges. Look, I have related with both coalitions in one way or the other. And my view is Jubilee as a coalition is sort of future looking, okay? And these, I'm taking the very best in both of them. It's sort of future looking. In fact, when you look at the way they speak, it's like they fear history. You wish history could be deleted. I do not understand why, but perhaps the narrative about what is wrong in the past does not favor Jubilee as a party. So it's future looking, and that is a good thing, especially perhaps for a young person, because we are only students of history. We are not witness to it. On the other hand, if you look at NASA, it sees a lot of bad things that are going on in the country, which is also a good thing. So it looks at what needs to be corrected in terms of historical injustices, in terms of perhaps the corruption that is happening and all that. Now, these two stories are not self-sustaining in themselves. You cannot run a country towards ahead without taking lessons from the past, and you cannot also remain steeped in the past without looking to the future. So I think in the end, what we need to, what the citizens need to look at is who of these people will, in my opinion, one, make the price of transforming this country affordable, because corruption has made it extremely expensive. We know as a country where we want to go. So neither Uhuru Kenyatta nor Raila Odinga is going to come with new ideas. There are blueprints that existed. People have thought about where the direction that this country needs to go, but it's about who can provide leadership that is affordable to Kenyans. And then number two, who can unite this country, because this country does well when people are united. There is varied opinion about the coalition government, for example, but in my opinion, since independence, the coalition government stands out as the best government ever, because every Kenyan felt they were in government, and we achieved a lot. We achieved a constitution that we had sought for 20 years. A lot of infrastructure projects were launched and all that. So who of the 8 candidates can truly bring this country together and make every citizen feel part of it?
Right.
And then finally, the youth agenda, in terms of who can give opportunities to the young generation, because we are the majority and we are really suffering.
Right.
So someone has to come up with real ideas and say, in terms of solving unemployment, this is how I want to go, and this is how. On the basis of those 3 things, we'll determine who our president becomes and support them.
All right. Of course, today is also, part of the thing we're going to be talking about is, of course, the SGR launch, which is happening today. And our Sam Gituku is standing by in Mombasa. I want to link up with him before we can get more views from Felix here. Sam, good morning, and bring us up to speed of what is happening in the coastal town.
Good morning, Will. Is Raburo, and just to confirm to you that it's 6:50 something here. 6:52, just like in Nairobi. There are leaders who are coming, who are arriving. This is Mombasa terminus. This is where the journey begins, from Mombasa coming all the way to Nairobi. The first SGR commuter train, or rather the first official SGR commuter train. President Uhuru Kenyatta, of course, will be being expected to arrive here this morning. We had been told that by about 7:30 he should be here to flag up that train that will be heading for Nairobi. But what we understand is that there will be 2 of those because one of them will be carrying President Uhuru Kenyatta and the other dignitaries, and then there will be another for several other persons, including members of the public, and some 47 children that we are told come from 47 counties to represent all those counties in terms of the younger generation, and so it has been an event that the various leaders, the various Kenyans who are here have been waiting for, to witness the first ride, just after what we witnessed yesterday, President Kenyatta flagging off the first cargo train that we believe reached Nairobi sometimes later in the evening. That was yesterday, because understandably it was supposed to take about 8 hours, but now the passenger train, the commuter train from Mombasa, this terminus to Nairobi, the Nairobi terminus, which is in Syokimau, is expected to take about 4.5 hours. But that may be different today, bearing in mind that President Uhuru Kenyatta will be taking some few stopovers at different stations. As we said yesterday, there are some 9 train stations across the entire network. That is where passengers can board and alight. Of course, the main ones is Mombasa and Nairobi, but the intervening ones from Voi, Mariakani, the river. There's another one at Misenyi, which is supposed to be boosting the tourism sector in terms of Tsavo National Park is concerned. So some of those the president will be making stopovers to witness what is there. Of course, we have some of our media, or rather some of our reporters and camera persons there waiting to see how that happens. But essentially, what is happening currently here at the Mombasa terminus, the various people who will be boarding that train are still arriving. Of course, having to come all the way from town, Mombasa town, to here. Of course, they have to have done that early. So we'll be expecting to see any movement, which we'll be monitoring for you, Raburu, so that we can feed you what happens here as we wait for the first train to take off for Nairobi. Raburu.
All right, of course. Thank you so much, Sam. Sam is going to be staying with us during the entirety of the better part of today morning, so you want to keep it here, and also you can check out his handle, Sam Gituku. You can also check out Citizen TV Kenya for that. So today is, of course, the SGR launch. Like you said, they're waiting. Many people are already coming in, waiting for the arrival of President Uhuru Kenyatta, and they're going to be making several stops. The train is supposed to take 4.5 hours. Of course, due to the fact that the president might be there, it might take a little bit longer because of the stops. But like he also mentioned, our crews are ready and standing by in different stops to keep you up to date. Now, going to take a short commercial break. We'll be back with Lone Felix here, and we're going to be joined by some others as well. Let's talk about that SGR project, what it means, what it portends, and also other news breaking headlines. So stay with us.